The Young and the Restless spoilers, Monday, full the 13th of July, 2026. Welcome back to our channel, you guys. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the messy, chaotic world of Genoa City, and we have so much to unpack. Grab a giant cup of coffee because things are getting absolutely wild on the Young and the Restless, and we need to talk about every single detail right now. So let's just jump right into it because the trauma in Genoa City is absolutely overflowing. We start over at Society, which is usually just a place for people to eat overpriced salads and glare at their corporate rivals. But today, it is the setting for a really heavy, intense conversation between Kyle and Billy. And honestly, it is about time these two actually sat down and talked like real human beings instead of just sniping at each other in the Jabbo boardroom. Billy is trying to play the role of the wise, comforting uncle, telling Kyle that the craziness is finally over. He literally looks at his nephew and says that he does not need to worry. But let's be real here for a second. Who actually believes this is going to end well? Kyle definitely does not. You can just see the absolute exhaustion and doubt written all over Kyle's face. He is vibrating with this nervous, unresolved energy, and he flat out tells Billy that he is not so sure it is actually over. And can you blame him? Because we have to remember what Kyle just went through. This poor guy literally had to play hero in the most traumatic way possible. He saved his mother, and he had to physically stop his own father from bleeding. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine being Kyle, kneeling on the floor, your hands covered in Jack's blood, desperately trying to hold it together while the patriarch of your family is fading right in front of you. It is the kind of nightmare that changes a person forever. Billy knows this, and they have this really raw moment where they talk about how much they love Jack and how overwhelmingly relieved they are that he is going to pull through. And Billy, in a rare moment of total emotional honesty, looks at Kyle and tells him that he can see Kyle becoming the leader of the Abbott family one. He tells him that he has Jack inside of him. But then Billy takes it a step further. And this is where the conversation gets really interesting and a little bit heartbreaking. Billy actually admits that when John Abbott died, Jack had to step up and take over the family, and Billy felt completely lost. And then he confesses that when Kyle was born, he actually felt like he was being replaced. Like, wow, that is a massive admission from Billy. It explains so much about his chaotic behavior over the years, this deep-seated insecurity that he was never enough for John and that he was being pushed out of the inner circle by Jack's own son. It is a messy, clunky confession, but it feels so real. You can tell Billy has been carrying that specific baggage around for decades, and he is just now letting it out. But Kyle is not really in the mood for a therapy session. His mind is running 1,000,000 miles a minute, and he immediately pivots the conversation to the one thing that is keeping him awake at night. Revenge, specifically revenge against Victor Newman. Billy immediately tries to shut it down. He tells Kyle that it is absolute madness to go after them, but Kyle is not backing down. He looks Billy dead in the eye and says that he has no choice. Someone has to pay for the fact that Jack almost died. And Billy points out that Patty Williams is the evil one here, and Kyle completely agrees that Patty is a monster. But Kyle is looking at the bigger picture. He is aiming straight for the top of the food chain, the person who set this entire nightmare into motion. Victor. Kyle is so fired up that he actually asks Billy to be his secret weapon. He wants them to team up and take Victor down once and for all. And honestly, part of me was screaming at the screen for Billy to say yes, because an Abbott team up against Victor is always pure television gold. But Billy says no. He tells Kyle that wanting revenge and actually getting it are two entirely different things. He warns him that Victor's family always rallies behind him and that Victor always wins. And then Billy says something that really hits hard. He says he would love to help, but everything has changed for him, specifically the size of his family, and he just cannot join Kyle on this suicide mission, which, if you know what Billy has been going through recently with Sally and the tragic loss of the baby, it just makes perfect sense. He is a broken man right now, and he does not have the energy for a corporate war. So while Kyle is plotting World War III at society, we shift over to the hospital, and the vibe is completely different. It is quiet, it is emotional, and it is honestly exactly what we needed to see. Diane is sitting right by Jack's hospital bed, and she looks like she has not slept in a week. Jack, who is still recovering from being literally stabbed, is trying to be the protective husband and tells her she needs to go get some sleep. And Diane just looks at him and says, "Try and make me." It is such a classic Diane response. She is stubborn, she is fierce, and she is absolutely terrified of losing him. Jack smiles and tells her that he wants nothing more than for her to be right there by his side. And she tells him that is exactly where she is going to stay. They start talking about Patty Williams, and you can feel the absolute disgust in the room. Diane says that Patty failed. She did not tear them apart, and now it is time for them to finally start their happily ever. Jack agrees, telling her they have so much time to make up for. But Diane is not just going to let it go. She gets this dark, serious look in her eyes and warns Jack that if she ever sees Patty Williams again, she is going to destroy her. And honestly, I believe her. Diane has been held hostage. She has been locked in a padded cell. She has been gaslit and terrified. And now her husband was nearly murdered. She is out of patience. But Jack, trying to keep the peace, promises her that Patty will never hurt anyone ever again. Which, okay, that sounded dramatic, but you get what I mean. Nobody can ever really promise that in Genoa City, especially when it comes to Patty. But Jack is trying to make his wife feel safe. Diane finally agrees to go home, take a shower, and dream about him. Right after Diane leaves, Abby walks into the hospital room to visit her uncle. And Abby is carrying her own trauma from this whole ordeal. She tells Jack about how incredibly disturbing it was to see him walking into society with Patty earlier before all the violence exploded. Jack asks her if she is there to say, "I told you so," but Abby is not there to gloat. She is just relieved he is alive. Jack reassures her that Patty is completely out of the picture now and that he and Diane are starting over with a clean slate. Abby gives him this soft smile and says, "Good, it better stay that way." Because we need a happy ending. And it just makes you wonder, how much more can this family take before they completely shatter into a million pieces? Abby leaves, and Jack is left alone. And the trauma of the stabbing comes rushing back. He remembers the blade, the pain, the chaos. And then his mind drifts to his father, John Abbott. It is a really poignant moment, showing that even though Jack is the patriarch now, he still desperately misses his dad when things get dark. Meanwhile, over at the Abbott mansion, things are taking a very different. Lauren, Ashley, and Tracy all arrive at the house, and the energy is a mix of exhaustion and relief. Ashley, who has been through absolute hell recently, says that they all desperately need to recover from this ordeal. Tracy, ever the optimist, calls it a literal miracle that they are all still standing. She looks around the mansion and is super impressed by the cleaning crew, who have apparently scrubbed the place top to bottom. But Ashley is not satisfied with just bleach and polish. She says the house needs more than a cleaning. It needs a spiritual cleansing. She actually tells Tracy to go get some salt so they can ward off the evil demon of Patty Williams. And honestly, I am with Ashley on this one. Throw salt in every corner, burn some sage, do whatever it takes to get Patty's unhinged energy out of that beautiful house. Tracy then turns to Lauren and thanks her for always being such an incredible loyal friend to Jack. And this sparks a really beautiful, kind of sad conversation. Lauren admits that she has always been deeply jealous of the Abbott sibling. She talks about how she was this spoiled only child for most of her life, right up until the massive bombshell dropped that Jill Abbott was her half-sister. And we all know how complicated and messy that relationship has been over the decades. Lauren looks at Tracy and Ashley and just envies this unbreakable bond they share. The conversation naturally shifts to John Abbott, and both Tracy and Ashley start reminiscing about their father, sharing these warm, nostalgic memories of the moments they spent with him. It is exactly the kind of grounding, historical family moment that longtime fans live for. Tracy, deciding that they all need to decompress, suggests they raid the legendary Abbott wine cellar and have a proper girls' night. And just as they are settling into this cozy, safe vibe, Diane walks through the front. Now, historically, Diane walking into a room with Ashley and Tracy would result in screaming, hair-pulling, or at least some incredibly vicious passive aggression. But not tonight. Tonight is different. Tracy immediately asks Diane how she is holding up. Diane looks at them, looking so fragile and exhausted, and simply says that she survived. And then Ashley, the woman who has hated Diane with the fire of 1,000 suns, looks at her and says, "Now you're home." Let me tell you guys, when Ashley said that, I actually gasped. It was such a profound shift. Diane is instantly overwhelmed. Right at that moment, Abby walks in and echoes the exact same sentiment, welcoming Diane home. Diane looks around at these women who have fought her for years, and she says, "This feels different." And then the walls just completely crumble. Diane admits that when she was being held hostage in that barred room, she was absolutely terrified. She starts to cry, just sobbing out all the fear and trauma she has been holding in. And Trossi, being the absolute angel that she is, tells Diane to just let it out and pulls her into a massive hug. It is a stunning moment of sisterhood and healing for a family that has been at war for decades. To lighten the mood, Abby pulls out her phone and suggests they all take a big group selfie to send to Jack. They squeeze together, smiling through the tears, and snap the picture. We cut back to the hospital, where the room is quiet except for the beeping monitor. Jack's phone chimes with a notification. He reaches over, pulls it up, and looks at the screen. And as he sees his sisters, his niece, and his wife all smiling together, standing united in the family home, a huge, genuine smile spreads across it. It is a rare, beautiful moment of peace. But this is Genoa City, so we all know we need to enjoy this peace while it lasts, because Kyle is out there plotting a war against Victor, and the next storm is already brewing.